Hello guys and gals, and welcome. So I know we had a lot of stuff going on over the week with the developer conference, the 2.4 patch highlights, all the interesting information that we've gotten about all the changes to all the characters in the game. However, I'm still doing unique item videos. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those patch notes videos and things like that, go take a look at those. Those are pretty cool. But today we're going to be looking at the unique item, the Fleshripper Fanged knife. The Fleshripper Fanged knife is one that has really sort of enchanted me because I really like the effects on this particular knife. And as we go over it, you may decide that you like the effects on this particular knife too. It's a very underrated knife in my opinion, and I feel like when you start to understand how good it actually is, you will use it for certain purposes that it is actually quite good for. Now, the Fleshripper Fang knife has a pretty decent damage of 48 to 184, which is variable between 200 to 300% ED, so pretty large ED there variance. As you can see, mine is 224%. We also have a dexterity requirement of 86, which is a little bit of a detriment, and a strength requirement of 42. So very low on the requirements, but the dex requirement there is going to make this a hurdle for some particular players who are low dex builds. We also have a level requirement of level 68, so not too bad there. Can be used relatively early on in your sort of end game career. And we have some very nice effects. So right off the bat there, you see it has negative 50% target's defense, which is just amazing. If you are any kind of character that has any kind of issue hitting targets, this is going to make a big difference, because when it runs the calculation to figure out whether you're going to hit, it's going to say, okay, she has 1,370 attack rating versus 10,000 defense. Oh no, wait, it's only 5,000 defense because negative 50% target's defense. So pretty cool. And then we also have 25% chance of crushing blow, which is of course the chance to deal 25% HP and damage to the monster that you're attacking, to their current HP, not their total. And of course it does suffer penalties for ranged. So if I'm using it on Blade Fury, for instance, I get the half penalty, so it's only 12.5%. In this particular situation, and it is of course a little bit less on bosses and PvP on characters, so keep that in mind. But it still works on ranged, and it is still quite effective. We also have a 33% chance of Deadly Strike, which is the chance to do double damage. So not only is this giving us Crushing Blow and negative targets defense, it's also giving us 33% chance of Deadly Strike. And if you are any kind of character that has an issue with Deadly Strike, so for instance, like not a Barbarian that has Critical Strike already, or not an Amazon that has Critical Strike already, or not an Assassin that has the Blade Critical Strike already, which comes from the Claw Mastery. Like, for instance, a Paladin or any other character that would really like to have some Deadly Strike. That is definitely going to come in handy, because it's going to double the physical damage that you deal out, and that's going to be pretty huge. We also have a 50% chance of open wounds, so if all the other effects on this thing were not good enough, it is also going to prevent the monster from healing by giving a huge bleed based on your character level. And then on top of that, not only do we get the 8-second bleed from open wounds, but we also get Prevent Monster Heal, which is going to work on all non-Ubers. So the Ubers are the only ones that Prevent Monster Heal doesn't work on, which means that the monsters are going to be stuck not regenerating for 20 minutes. So they're going to be incapable of regeneration for 20 minutes, and they're going to be bleeding to death. Which is absolutely great. And then, as if all that wasn't enough already, we also have the slows target by 20%. So literally, on top of everything, we've got some amazing effects. And as you can see here, I have two of them. And these two knives I'm using for two separate purposes. So this one is being used for my Blade Fury Assassin, and she does not need attack speed. Whereas this one is being used on my Conviction Smiter, and the entire purpose of this one is to allow me to swap to it when I am doing my smiting, and it allows me to get the effects of the crushing blow, the open wounds, and the prevent monster heal, and the slowest target, and all that stuff. So whenever I'm smiting a target down, I just swap to this, and it works absolutely amazing. This is far superior in my opinion to something like a black. Which is a rune word that has a lot of crushing blow on it, because not only does this have crushing blow, it also has open wounds and the other effects, which also make this thing very, very, very potent. Now, granted, I usually end up switching back to my main weapon when I go to do the killing blows, but it's still very interesting. And just to show you how the Blade Fury Assassin works, let's go take a look at how she fires off her little things. So while using the Fanged knife, or the Fleshripper Fanged knife, I can, of course, fire off my attacks. I'm going to use Cloak of Shadows, which is my way of bringing down the monster's defense. And as you can see, it's still fairly effective, as long as I can hit, of course. But the Fleshripper makes it a lot easier for me to hit, just simply because it has that nice negative defense. And it's absolutely great. Now let's go over to my single-player character, and I want to show you the ethereal version. So the ethereal version does have some uses as well, and I would like you guys to see it. So let's hop on this little dude. Here we are. This is the ethereal version, and this is the perfect the perfect version of the non-ethereal. So so in its perfect version, the Fleshripper has the 60 to 228 damage, which is better, of course, than the one I showed you. And the ethereal version is 88 to 340 with the same effects. And as you notice, the ethereal version has the negative 10 on the dexterity and the strength, which is absolutely excellent. Now, what would you do with these weapons? Well, there's a lot of different things you can do with these weapons. You can use them on a kick-sin to gain the effects of the crushing blow and the deadly strike and things like that. The open wounds. You can use them on a Blade Fury Assassin, which is actually pretty excellent. And believe it or not, a Blade Fury Assassin will not burn the durability of the Fleshripper Fanged knife. So if you put this ethereal version on an assassin who is using Blade Fury, you can get the full effect of that 88 to 340 damage and all the really nice bonuses that this weapon has without burning the durability. There are specific characters in the game that do not burn durability on attack, and I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I'm pretty sure Kicksin also has a situation like that where they don't burn durability from kicks. So it's very nice, and obviously, you can also use this on a smiter. Smiters get some really nice effect out of this as well, and you could also theoretically use this on a dagger necromancer, a poison dagger necromancer. This would certainly be a very high damage weapon for a poison dagger necromancer. Granted, you're not going to get the other effects, but I mean, think about it. You've got your crushing blow, your deadly strike, your open wounds, your prevent monster heal, your slowest target, your negative target defense. It would certainly work well on a poison dagger necro for running in and stabbing some things. I mean, the necromancer is of course going to have trouble with his attack rating, and that negative 50% target's defense is going to be great. You could even throw an Eth rune in there, and I think you can bump that up to negative 75%. And then on top of that, you've got the prevent monster heal and the open wounds, which is going to complement your poison strike. So when you hit somebody, they're not going to be able to regenerate. They're going to get open wounds applied to them, so they're going to be bleeding, and then the poison is going to apply as well, so their health is just going to tick down really fast, which is great. And then, of course, the deadly strike on the necromancer is going to come in handy because necromancers, of course, don't have a critical strike. So, even the physical damage aspect of this is going to be nice. And then you're going to get the crushing blow on top of there. Just an all-around really amazing little knife. And honestly, there's a lot of interesting uses for it. Specifically, one that I don't think a lot of people have ever thought of is the Amazon gets ridiculously bad penalties for using a weapon that is not a stabbing weapon. And there are very few stabbing weapons in the game. Javelins are one of them. But daggers are also stabbing weapons, and this particular dagger is probably one of the best stabbing weapons in the game. And if you were to make a very odd build, I've done it before, which is basically a completely passive Amazon that does not use any Amazon abilities. And she needs a one-handed weapon and a shield. Now, if you want to use a shield, the only other option that you can go with is a javelin, because the javelins have the stabbing motion. While daggers also have the stabbing motion, and daggers will also not penalize the Amazon tremendously for using it. So Fleshripper Fang Knife might be an interesting choice there for a completely passive Amazon. So it'd be interesting, or rather a Tankazon, perhaps. I've just kind of fallen in love with this particular item because I always love items that have these massive numbers of debuffs on them. Like, I just think it's so amazing when you have an item like this that you can just walk up, hit a target one time, and they've just turned into like some sort of plague creature. You know, they're slowed, they can't regenerate, they're bleeding profusely, their defense has been cut in half. You know, they literally got hit with a crushing blow attack, and they're just they don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, as soon as you tap them one time with this thing, you know, you've got all these different effects being applied, and it's just kind of ridiculous. I kind of wish the slowest target was a little higher than 20%, but we can't get greedy. All in all, this is a very amazing knife, but where can you find this particular knife? So I've actually been searching for the ethereal version of the Fleshripper for quite some time because I want to use it on my Blade Fury Assassin, and I have not been able to find one. But if you go to the TC class for Diablo 2, and you search for the Fleshripper, you will find it on the list. Fleshripper. The Fleshripper is in the TC class 84, and TC class 84 is a relatively high TC class, which means it's generally only going to drop from basically level 85 zones. I mean, there's very few like level 83 zones, which is what you would have to be be able to find this. So you're probably just going to be looking at 85 zones. It's your easiest bet. So, you know, places like the Pit, the Ancient Tunnels, you know, Chaos Sanctuary, Worldstone Keep. Those are all like level 85 zones. Maggot Lair level 3. And granted, it will drop from, I think, some 84 and some 83 zones. But I just can't think of a lot of level 84 and level 83 zones off the top of my head. It should also drop from Diablo, Mephisto in Hell, Baal in Hell, probably Andariel in Hell, but don't quote me on that. It's going to be a relatively rare item because the Fanged knife has a treasure class of 83, which is a relatively high treasure class, and it already is a relatively hard to find base, essentially. So when you do find a Fleshripper base, there's a good chance it can be a Fanged knife if your rolls do go correctly. Which reminds me, I found a 3-socketed Fanged knife the other day, and I was like, what in the world rune word can I put in a 3-socketed Fanged knife? Because, you know, it's about just as rare as finding a really nice socketed like Berserker's Axe or something. You know, it's up there on one of the rarest bases in the game. It's not the rarest base in the game, but it's more rare than, you know, something like a Cryptic Axe. A Cryptic Axe is TC 81, whereas the Fanged knife is TC 84, and it's interesting. So if you guys ever find a Fleshripper, maybe give it a second thought, because you might want to use it for your Smiter or something like that, or maybe you'll build a Blade Fury Assassin later on, or a Kicksin. If you find an ethereal version, definitely hold on to it, because there are some very nice uses for the Fleshripper Fanged knife in its ethereal form. Granted, they are a little niche, I will admit, they are a little niche, but the uses for them are very specific, and actually become some of the best items in the game for those specific characters. Believe it or not, the ethereal Fleshripper Fang Knife is one of the best choices for a Blade Fury Assassin. There's only 3 choices for a Blade Fury Assassin if you want top damage, and that is a really, really nice claw with the right modifiers, which is very, very hard to come by, the Death Rune Word, and the Fleshripper Fang Knife. And as far as I'm concerned, the ethereal Fleshripper Fang Knife, I think, wins, because in my opinion, the Fang knife has more going for it to completely rip down the monster's defenses. One of the main issues that I've had on the Blade Fury Assassin is attack rating. And I've noticed that when I use the Fleshripper Fang knife versus the Death, my attack rating is not so much of an issue because of the negative 50% target's defense. And that's really interesting. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and keep watching.